Normally, these first preseason games on the first preseason weekend are not exactly appointment television. I mean, yes, we're excited for a few minutes, but then the team is back and we're hyped, but then we see what it is really. What it is really is your team is back. So that's good news, but it's nothing more than background noise for the rest of the night as the scrubs scrub it up. Like you get all hyped up and then you remember, oh yeah, that's exactly what that is. Except that's not what that is tonight in Cleveland. Cleveland is something totally different. Cleveland is different because we get to see Shedeur Sanders in a Browns jersey. And by the way, what an opportunity for that dude. Despite the fact that the Browns have like 19 quarterbacks, everything fell into place for Shedeur to be the one to start tonight. So he goes from number 4 on the depth chart to QB1. Out of necessity, because Kenny Tiny Hands Pickett, Dylan Alvin DeLauro Gabriel are both banged up. Joe Flacco is 40. Snoop Huntley only arrived like 48 hours ago. So by default, Shedeur is going to get that start. AKA exactly the opening that he has been waiting for to show the Browns and the world what a mistake they made by letting this guy last until the 5th round. And that he's worthy of all the hype and the attention, and that he, in fact, might be part of Cleveland's future. Ask me. Ask me. And not everybody agrees with this. I don't think the guy could ask for a better stage to show out. You could even go as far as to call it perfect timing. You know, I gotta be right. I gotta be honest. When I first heard that track, I was not a big fan of that track when it dropped. Now, admittedly, this is not where I live, but I'm just listening to it. And I got to admit, I was not a huge fan when it dropped, but today it's hitting a little bit differently. If you're not streaming, what you're missing, well, not very much at all. But if you're not streaming, what that is Shedeur's single, perfect timing. But I'm going to give him this much. It sounds much better today than it did when he performed it at his draft mansion. Remember Draft Mansion on draft night? That night, it didn't slap. It didn't slap when he performed it at Draft Mansion after not getting drafted on draft night while performing it at Draft Mansion. What I'm saying is, it wasn't perfect timing at all. And there was no reason to stay grinding. Now, tonight, it slaps a little, and it hits differently because it is perfect timing. Perfect timing for this dude to step up right off the jump in game 1 with everybody watching, and everybody will be watching, and show us exactly what this guy's got, how he's built. It's exactly the opportunity that he'd been looking for and talking about. It is perfect timing. And if this guy can show us something tonight, you bet your ass he'll get more opportunities going forward. And what am I leading into? This bizarre concept, this bizarre notion that the Browns are actually setting him up to fail. Like they're rooting against their own guy. Their own guy. Huh? What is that? This notion that the Browns are somehow sabotaging Shedeur. Why? Why would the Browns want to torpedo Shedeur Sanders? Let me make sure this thing fits right. I've got my tinfoil hat back on. Just want to make sure I'm underneath it properly. Why would they want to torpedo Shedeur Sanders? This is the Browns we're talking about here, a.k.a. the most quarterback-desperate team ever. They need a quarterback about as badly as any team ever has needed a quarterback. Just not this quarterback. They need a quarterback, any quarterback, but not this quarterback. So let's submarine him. The hell does that mean? Why? Make that make sense. I know you conspiracy kooks absolutely love your tinfoil, but that weird alternate brown helmet that they debuted on the lake would be a way better look for you kooks right now than your tinfoil. They're sandbagging Shedeur. They don't want Shedeur to succeed. Huh? Does that really make sense? Because it shouldn't. Now, you want to talk about quarterback sabotage. Let's talk about giving up all that draft collateral and guaranteed jack to a washed-up creep. That's not even quarterback sabotage. That's franchise sabotage. That's how desperate they are, though. They threw down $250 million, guaranteed, on a washed-up creep in the hopes that he could still play. But they don't want Shedeur to succeed? They need a savior. But they don't want to be saved by Shedeur? But they want to be saved by a creep. Again, make that make sense for me, because it can't. It doesn't, and you can't. But, logic never gets in the way of the tinfoilers, or the lava flingers, does it? And the tinfoilers are fixated on, here's the argument, the practice reps. The kooks think that since Shedeur has not been given any run with the ones, it means that by pushing him out there right now, knowing he's not ready, they're setting him up to fail. When all it really means is he's not getting the same number of reps as the others, but he is getting the same number of reps as any fifth-round rookie that's number 4 on the depth chart would ever get. That's completely consistent. Yet still, people think the lack of practice reps with the ones and then throwing him into the fire tonight is a gigantic trap, carefully being set by Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry. When again, starting Shedeur tonight wasn't even really anybody's choice. It's about necessity. It's about availability. Who do they have? Who are they going to play? And that makes it pretty hard to view this as some sort of trap or intentional act of sabotage, at least for me. However, I know my logic is not going to convince the conspiracy kooks. Logic does not penetrate tinfoil. Let me repeat that. Logic does not penetrate tinfoil. I know this. However, know this. Any rookie, fifth-round quarterback, who's not even the top rookie on his own team, is not going to get a ton of first-team reps in the first 2 weeks of camp. Period. It's how it's always been. It's how it's always going to be. It would be the same for anybody. And that's really what the Shedeur people and the tinfoilers have a problem with. You know what their problem is? It's that Shedeur is not getting preferential treatment. The real problem is that Shedeur is not getting opportunities that nobody else would get. Shedeur is being treated like any other fifth-round rookie. That's the part that has Shedeur people all bent and butthurt and crying conspiracy and sabotage and subterfuge. But you know what? Even Shedeur's not complaining about it. He's like one of the only ones who gets it. Me and him, I think, are the only ones who get this. I've got one important question for all the subterfuge and sabotage believers. What is the point? What is the end game? Why do they need to go out of their way to sabotage and torpedo Shedeur? What does Kevin Stefanski get out of that? Why would he coordinate some elaborate conspiracy to deny Shedeur opportunity? One, they drafted him. They wanted him. And two, what do they get out of this? Is it because they suddenly decided they don't like having him around? They don't want him around? They need a reason to get rid of him? If that were the case, they would just get rid of him. They would just cut him loose and not give it a second thought. What, they're concerned about what the fans think? They brought in that creep and they gave him $250 million. What do you mean they're concerned? Not coordinate an entire elaborate sabotage conspiracy because they're afraid to cut this guy loose? It's the same franchise that had no problem kicking the first overall pick to the curb. They had no problem at all telling the only quarterback to win a playoff game in the current iteration of this franchise that he was the problem. The same franchise that had no issue dragging Baker Mayfield out to the curb and leaving him out there like he was Tuesday morning's trash with that proverbial sign around his neck, if you can haul it, you can have it. But for some reason, we think they wouldn't do the same thing to Shedeur. Why? Baker went first overall. Shedeur went in the 5th round. It makes no sense. You still hear that nonsense, by the way, about Baker in Cleveland. Morons dug in on this notion that Mayfield was a cancer. He had to go. He needed to go. There was nothing the Browns could do. Yeah, all he does is go to Tampa Bay and lead them to divisional championships every single year. And they love him. They love him. They love him. He's the leader of the team. He followed the GOAT who won a Super Bowl, and they love him. And he still won them over. But he's a cancer. He was the problem in Cleveland. Look, here's a suggestion for what the Browns could have done. They could have just kept Baker rather than dumping him like garbage, and then we would never had that issue of guaranteeing some creep who's washed a quarter of a bill who can't even play. Which is better? Personally, I would have kept the guy they had. As I was saying that much at the time, for the record. Point is this. If they didn't want the 5th rounder around, they would dump him just as fast as they dumped their number 1 overall pick. They don't need a conspiracy to do that. There is no sabotage afoot. Nobody is sandbagging this dude. It's just not that dramatic, no matter how badly the lava flingers want it to be. In fact, for all of the social media chaos surrounding Shedeur, it actually seems like he's having a perfectly normal camp for a 5th round rookie. Here's Myles Garrett giving his assessment of Shedeur's camp so far. Don't take it from me, take it from Myles Garrett.
I mean, he's funny, he's optimistic, he's lighthearted, but he works hard. You know, he takes it seriously, his craft, and he's watching what the others are doing and you know, doing it his own way in which only he can. So, you know, looking forward to see him, you know, during these preseason games and you know, how he manages the offense. But you know, I think he looks good, but all the guys look good right now.
I mean, first things first, when was the last time you saw a dude like that? A dude like that conduct a presser like that? Second of all, he looks better than you. He looks better than me. He looks better than all of us. If I look like that, I also would show up in this box without a shirt. If I look like that, I would not own any shirts. I would never wear a shirt, regardless of the weather. Holy crap. Yeah, but notice, I don't even know what he said. I was too distracted by the gun show. I think that he said he's a normal 5th round pick who works hard, who's got a good attitude, but I don't really know. Because I was so fixated on the gun show and how that guy looked and how jacked that guy was. Again, I would be in this box 4 hours every single day. No, you know what I would do? If I look like that, I would go to management and say, I want a 5th hour. I want a 5th hour so I can be in this box every day without a shirt. In fact, you know what? I would never leave the box. I'd sleep here. I'd eat here. I'd do my work here. I'd do my prep here. And I would sell all my shirts. Anyway, back to Shedeur. For tonight. It is a big chance. They're not paying him to look bad. They're not rooting against him. Believe me, they would love for this guy to go in there tonight, catch lightning in a bottle, and absolutely tear it up. They want that. They don't want him to fall on his face. It's perfect timing. It is the perfect timing for Shedeur to #be legendary. So let's see what you got. Let's see what you got. Let's get it. Man, I am not rooting against this guy at all. I'm rooting against bad takes. I'm rooting against conspiracy theories that make no sense. So what do you think? What's going to happen tonight? Is this guy going to show up on the big stage? And by the way, for him, it is a big stage. Maybe not normally for a preseason game, but if you're number 4 and you can't get reps and you're a 5th round pick, and now all of a sudden you're going to start, Hell yes, that's a big stage for this guy. And this guy usually is built for the big stage. So, will he show up? Will he show out? Are you Team Tinfoil? Get in here. Give me your takes. Again, believe me, I'm not rooting for this guy to fail. I'm here rooting for your takes not to suck. That's what I'm rooting for. I'm rooting against the lava in bad takes. I've got one more sidebar before I break. It was always a thing to say shh, just to say shh. But now it's become like a national epidemic. And I'm making it my goal to put an end to it. But I'm only one man. But my message to you, man, stop puppeting media lava. Stop spewing just to spew. Stop being so angry at everything. Bring the juice. Bring the energy. Just don't bring the hate and the anger. Hate is not a take, but it is the new dopamine, unfortunately, but it doesn't need to be. Everything is not a conspiracy theory. Man, I hope the dude lights it up. It's going to make everything so much more interesting. I hope the dude lights it up. And you know what? If he doesn't, don't come in here and say, told you so, they set him up to fail. Again, he's getting as much run and as much work as anybody else who's number 4 on the depth chart, who is a 5th round draft pick, is going to get. He's nothing special at this level until he proves otherwise. And at least the Browns, one more thought, they're setting him up to fail. They were the only ones who took him. Every other team passed on him, and so did the Browns. He wasn't even the first quarterback they took. But they're setting him up to fail? Wow. How do you live in this world of conspiracy theories? Well, why don't we just reserve judgment and wait and see how it goes?